Hi, this is Miss Sebastian, and we're going to look at functions and graphing linear functions. So our first problem says find the slope. So slope is always rise, that means the movement up or down, change in y, over run. Rise over run, so the change in y over the change in x. So what you're going to do is you're going to start at the left side green point. You're going to count down. I move 1, 2, 3 down, and since I'm going down, it's negative. And then I'm going to run all the way to the green point. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. That is positive 4. So my rise is negative 3. My run is 4. So because I went down, it was negative, and to the right is positive. If we had gone to the left, it would be a negative. Find the slope of the line. Describe how one variable changes in relation to the other. So I'm going to do again, rise over run. So I have to go up. This one doesn't show a clear point, but I can see that it crosses my grid lines right there. So I go up 30. So my rise is 30 over, I'm going to run, and it says this is 1. So that 30 is 30 miles per hour. So even though my slope is 30 over 1, or just 30, that means in relation to the units on the side, I've got miles per hour. So miles per hour. So this car travels 30 miles in 1 hour. Find the slope of this line. Describe how one variable changes in relation to the other. So I'm going to look again for 2 spots that cross exactly. Oh, here's one. And here's one. You could also choose any of the others. Okay, but I'm going to go down, and it goes from 120 to 80. That's 40 that we're going down. So that would be negative 40. Remember, rise over run. Over, now we're going to run. We're running, we're starting at 1, and we're moving over to 2. I can simplify this negative 40 over 2 by dividing both the top and the bottom by 2. And that would be negative 20 over 1, or just negative 20. And this says the number of miles from Josh's home. So that is 20 miles per hour. So that means they are driving 20 miles per hour. And they are getting closer and closer back home. So they are cutting 20 miles off their trip each hour. The data in the table is linear. Use the table to find the slope. So before we were using rise over run, or the change in y over the change in x. There is also a formula that says the change in y, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Same thing. They're just different ways to state the exact same thing. So I always pick a pair, and I'm just going to say, oh, this is my first pair, this is my second pair. It does not matter which one you pick to be your first, which one you pick to be your second. Okay, but I'm going to say y2. So that means my y in my second pair. So that's this one. That's my y value in my second pair. minus my y value in my first pair. That'd be this 8. So that's y2 minus y1. That's on top. And now we're going to do x2 minus x1. That means the x in my second pair, this 0, minus the x in my first pair, negative 2. So now all I have to do is simplify. 5 minus 8 is negative 3, and 0 minus negative 2, if I see minus a negative, it's the same as plus a positive. So 0 plus 2 is 2. So the slope of this line, or the data in this table, is negative 3 halves. And leave it as an improper fraction, because you'll use that to graph your lines. So now we have looked at how to find the slope of ordered pairs. We have found the slope of graphs. Now we're going to graph these linear functions. So you've got y equals mx plus b is your slope-intercept form. B, the number added or subtracted, is your y-intercept. The slope is that m. So all you need are 2 points to graph a line. So we're going to look for the y-intercept first, and that's this negative 2, the thing that is added or subtracted. So we're going to put a, whoops, sorry about that, my pen's not wanting to put a dot. There we go. A dot on negative 2. Now we have a slope of 1/4. So we're going to go up 1 and to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you could also go backward because that's a positive 1/4. You could go down, that'd be negative 1, and to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4. Because negative 1 over negative 4 is the same as positive 1 over positive 4. There we go. Sorry, that line's not completely straight, but you get the idea. All you need is 1 point in addition to the y-intercept to graph the line, but I like to go both ways so that it can see, we can kind of get a straighter line that way. Okay, we're going to graph this linear function. Remember, y equals mx plus b. The b is your y-intercept, and your m is your slope. So on this one, my y-intercept is positive 1. So I go to my y-axis, put a dot on positive 1. My slope is negative 3. That means negative 3, I'm going to rise, and I'm going to run 1. Now, the reason it's over 1 is because any whole number is always over 1 as a fraction. So I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go to the left 1 to make sure that that's negative. You could also go down 1, 2, 3, and to the right 1. Notice that these lines that have a negative slope do go up to the left. Up to the left. Find the slope of a line that is parallel to the line containing the points 1, 3, and negative 2, 4. So when we see something that is parallel, that means it has the same slope. So all this is asking me to do is find the slope of the line with those two numbers. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to label it x1, y1, and x2, y2. So I'm going to write down my slope formula. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. make that a little easier to read right there. There we go. So I'm going to take the y from my second pair, which is 4. I'm going to subtract the y from my first pair. That's 3. Then I'm going to take my x from my second pair. That's negative 2. And take the x from my first pair, and that's 1. Now I'm just going to simplify. 4 minus 3 is 1. Negative 2 plus negative 1 is negative 3. So my slope for a line parallel is going to be the exact same, which is negative 1/3. And that negative can go with the 1 or the 3 or right in the middle, as long as there is only one negative sign. Okay, now we're going to find the slope of a line that is perpendicular to the line containing the points. So the first thing we need to do is know what perpendicular means. That means before, when we had something that was parallel, it was the same slope. This one is actually going to form a right angle with that line. So the slope of this one is going to be flipped and the opposite sign. So it's called the opposite reciprocal. Opposite reciprocal. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to find the original slope. So x1, y1, x2, y2. We're going to write down our slope formula. And we're going to find the slope for our 2 points that were given. So my second y, that's negative 2, minus my first y, that's 3. My second x is 4, minus my first x, which is negative 1. So I'm going to simplify. Negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5. 4 minus negative 1, which is the same as 4, plus 1, that's 5. So I've got negative 5 over 5, which is the same as negative 1 over 1. Okay, we just simplified. So the slope of a line that is perpendicular, I'm going to flip my numbers. So now 1 is on the top, negative 1 is on the bottom, and a negative. So a negative times a negative, or a negative divided by a negative, is 1. So all you're doing is you flip the slope and change the sign to make it perpendicular. So flip the slope and change the sign.